Music, that is not a decision that I choose. I am forced to go through the royal household and accept. Prince Harry's latest interview has started more drama with the royal family, and this time he sounds more serious than ever. He admits they may never forgive him, and he doesn't sound like he expects them to. So what exactly did he say? And why is everyone talking about it? To find out, let's get into the video: Family Feuds and Unforgiven Choices. In a recent interview that will certainly be remembered for years to come, Prince Harry opened up about the ongoing tensions between him and his family, revealing just how deep the rift runs. In his words, there have been so many disagreements with his relatives. And while some of the issues are personal, others have come from his public actions. One of the biggest sticking points, his decision to write a memoir. According to Harry, some family members will never forgive him for writing a book, a sentiment he's had to accept. It's clear that his relationship with his family has been irreparably damaged over time. And while reconciliation would be nice, he's resigned to the fact that it may never happen. The tension is thick, especially when it comes to his relationship with his father, King Charles. Harry confessed he's unsure how much longer his father has. And while they've been distant for years, the current dispute over security is one of the biggest obstacles between them. "He won't speak to me because of this security stuff," Harry said, referring to his ongoing legal battle for Staytef Fund security. Despite this, he expressed his desire for peace, acknowledging that life is too short for continuing conflict. It would be nice to reconcile, he added, though it's evident that the path to mending these relationships is far from clear. This interview comes on the heels of a major court ruling that rejected Harry's claim for security paid by British taxpayers. He had previously stated that this case was the most important he'd ever fought, framing it as a matter of protecting his family. So when the court sided against him, Harry's reaction was swift, and it didn't take long for him to sit down for what could only be described as a heartbreaking interview. For the royal family, this was an explosive moment, an emotional bombshell delivered in front of the cameras. Harry's grievances, which have long been aired in private, were now laid bare for all to see. This wasn't just a court decision to Harry. It was a symbolic rejection of his place within the royal fold, a move that would only widen the gap between him and his family. It also served to highlight the core issue at the heart of his struggle's security. After years of facing threats to his safety, he is adamant that this is the key issue that remains unresolved. The frustration with Harry isn't solely about his legal battles or security concerns. It's about the choices he's made along the way. His family has voiced its discontent, and many believe that Harry's decision to publicly air their personal matters is one of the reasons for the growing distance. When the Queen was on her deathbed, Harry released his book and launched a Netflix documentary. His family had made it clear that these actions had consequences. King Charles, who has been battling health issues of his own, is reportedly exhausted by the constant drama. Lady Colin Campbell even revealed that King Charles has been dealing with incurable cancer, adding another layer of stress to his already strained relationship with his son. In the interview, Harry seemed to position himself as the victim of this drama, but for many his actions have made it hard to sympathize. Yes, King Charles has faced personal health battles, but at the same time, it's difficult to ignore the fact that Harry's public revelations have only added fuel to the fire. His desire to be seen as a victim might resonate with some, but for many, it's hard to look past the fact that his family has repeatedly warned him about the consequences of his choices. Reconciliation. As Harry expressed his longing for reconciliation, it became clear that this wasn't just about security or legal matters. It was about the emotional distance that has grown between him and his family over the years. He spoke about the possibility of reconciling, but it's hard to ignore the fact that the more he opens up to the public, the harder it will be to bridge that gap. The reality is that his family might never forgive him for airing their dirty laundry in public, especially after all that has transpired. His longing for peace is understandable, but it doesn't change the fact that the damage done by his public actions is immense. Writing a book and producing a documentary, all while his family was dealing with personal crisis, has left a lasting mark. The royal family is caught between a desire to protect its image and a need to maintain a sense of unity in the face of public scrutiny. For Harry, the hope for reconciliation remains, but it seems more like a distant dream rather than an achievable reality. Prince Harry's latest interview only deepens the rift between him and the royal family, and it's clear that this isn't helping anyone. The tension surrounding his security situation has been building for years, and with each new public statement, the drama intensifies. This time, it's not just about his security, it's about the way he frames the issue. England's second highest ranking judge, Sir Geoffrey Charles Voss, presided over Harry's legal case and made it clear that Harry's grievance regarding his downgraded security didn't hold up legally. Voss said the decision was both predictable and sensible, leaving Harry's claims about safety in limbo. But Harry's response, he continued to push for reconciliation with his family, expressing a need for forgiveness while simultaneously airing personal details about the monarchy that had never been publicly revealed. He seemed to want to repair his relationships, yet his actions, like discussing the health of his father, only served to widen the divide. In his interview, Harry repeatedly spoke about wanting to reconcile with his family, expressing a desire for peace and understanding. Yet, his actions contradict this plea. If reconciliation was truly his goal, then why continue discussing private matters in public? The royal family, particularly King Charles, has always valued their privacy, and Harry has made it clear he's not afraid to invade it. By revealing personal conversations and even touching on the private health details of his father, he's doing the very thing he claims to oppose, violating privacy. At one point, Harry claimed that members of his family might never forgive him for writing his memoir, but he was ready to forgive them. Yet here he was talking about the most personal aspects of their lives in an interview for the world to see. This contradiction seems lost on him. If he's so eager for peace, why continue stoking the flames of drama? The security situation. When it comes to the core issue of security, Harry painted a picture of a situation that felt both desperate and paranoid. He described how in 2020 his security status was downgraded from the highest level of risk to the lowest without a proper risk management review. This change, Harry argued, was not only unfair but unjustifiable. He questioned the motivations behind the decision, claiming that there was something sinister at play. But to many, Harry's claims seem exaggerated, even delusional. As Father Calvin Robinson pointed out, there is no compelling evidence to support Harry's theory that the British government manipulated his risk assessment. In fact, the logic behind the downgrade makes perfect sense. In 2020, Harry stopped being a working royal and moved to America. This meant that the circumstances surrounding his security shifted dramatically. When his role within the royal family changed, so did the perceived level of risk. It's a straightforward situation, but Harry has turned it into a conspiracy. The true security concern surrounding Harry isn't about the safety of his travels. Instead, it's about the way he leaks private information to the media. His constant revelations about family matters and private conversations create a security risk that goes beyond physical threats. By sharing these details publicly, Harry exposes his family to potential harm, all while claiming he's the victim of a grand conspiracy. Harry's inability to recognize the deeper issue here, his own role in creating this environment of insecurity, only makes his argument weaker. He keeps returning to the security issue as though it's the last remaining obstacle to reconciliation. But the problem is much bigger than that. It's about respect, privacy, and trust. all of which have been undermined by his own actions. What Harry seems to miss in his pursuit of justice is that his actions have left him isolated. His public rants about how the system has wronged him only serve to highlight his growing paranoia. Instead of finding common ground with his family, he continues to spiral, focusing on grievances that feel increasingly out of touch with reality. This isn't just about security. It's about a deep emotional conflict and a need for validation that he can't seem to get from anyone, including his family. According to Harry, the removal of his security in 2020 wasn't just a bureaucratic shift. He believes it was a tactic, a calculated move by the royal household, the government, and yes, even his own father to pressure him into coming back. He claimed they knew his family was at risk, but still hoped the threat would be enough to scare him into returning. In his words, they hoped he'd see the danger and cave, but when he didn't, he wondered why no one stepped in to keep them safe anyway. Despite no current threats to his life, Harry argued that his safety and the safety of Meghan and the children was being knowingly ignored. He called for a full security reassessment, something he claims hasn't been done since 2019. He even asked for government ministers to step in. But for many observers, it's hard to understand why someone who chose to leave royal duties, move continents, and profit off Netflix and memoir deals expects taxpayer-funded police escorts in a country he rarely visits. The family can't keep fixing this. For years, insiders say it was Prince William who cleaned up after Harry. From the Nazi costume scandal to racially offensive slurs and even a wild Vegas weekend that went global, William had reportedly always been there, always smoothing things over. But when he finally asked the question, everyone else was too polite to say whether Harry was truly sure about his relationship with Meghan. The dynamic reportedly blew up. Harry didn't take it well. Family doubts were dismissed as attacks, and from that moment, the brothers began what looks more and more like a permanent split. In the interview, Harry referred to his family as a group of people, a phrase that stunned even the most jaded royal commentators. The warmth and unity that once symbolized the monarchy seemed gone. What remained was a man demanding recognition, demanding protection, and yet apparently distancing himself from everything that once justified either. One royal expert remarked that what struck him most wasn't the content. There were no signs of care or concern, no words of love or family unity, just another round of demands without acknowledgement of the life he chose when he walked away from the royal role. Then came the part that truly outraged royalists. When asked about King Charles's ongoing cancer treatment, Harry shifted the burden straight back onto his father. He said that only his father and the power he still holds could resolve this situation. He even implied that Charles should step aside and let the experts handle his security concerns. To some, this wasn't just tone-deaf. It was deeply offensive. One commentator called it sick, especially given the king's fragile health and the stress he's already under. With Charles reportedly battling something far more serious than publicly acknowledged, the idea that Harry would use this moment to pressure his father hit a raw nerve. Harry may believe he's fighting a just cause, but the public reaction says otherwise. Critics have pointed out that this is a man who chose freedom, chose independence, and yet seems unwilling to accept the consequences. They say he wants the perks of royalty without the duty, the protection without the service, and the spotlight without the scrutiny. Meanwhile, William reportedly refuses to even discuss the interview. In royal circles, it's now a forbidden subject. For him, the damage seems done. For Charles, the timing couldn't be worse. And for Harry, it's another chapter in a story that's starting to look less like a misunderstanding and more like a deliberate divide. Harry's demands, delusions, and the royal meltdown. There's something almost surreal about watching a man ask his father, the king, to pull political strings on his behalf. In a country where the monarchy is constitutionally meant to stay out of politics, That's the foundation of the whole British setup. Monarchs wave from balconies. They don't interfere with ministers. So when Prince Harry demands that his father intercede in a government decision, it doesn't just cross a line. It ignores the entire map. Some argue that technically the government operates at the monarch's pleasure. There's no formal separation of powers like in the US, so in theory, the king could try something bold. But this isn't some medieval drama. It's 2025. No one wants Charles riding a white horse into Parliament, shutting it down, and calling it a day. Not even his lukewarm supporters want that. And for those already skeptical of Charles, there's no appetite to defend any idea that drags him deeper into political waters. The whole point of a constitutional monarchy is to avoid exactly this. Charles shouldn't meddle in politics, not because he's Charles, but because he's the monarch. That's the job description. Even critics who lean anti-establishment don't want a royal dabbling in policy, especially not to settle a personal score. That's the part that sticks. This isn't just any issue. It's a family drama dressed up as a national crisis. And there lies the real problem. Harry isn't airing concerns about the Constitution or public safety. He's airing his personal grievances, grievances that have already been paraded in documentaries, books, interviews, and more streaming deals than most actors get in a decade. Now, imagine this. People like Ajin Hirsi Ali have lived for years under real credible threats to their lives. She's had to move countries, rely on private security, and face constant danger, all because of her activism. Yet, she still speaks out, travels, and fights her battles without Netflix specials or press tours. Compared to that, Harry's security woes start to look a little padded. Even if you take his concerns at face value, even if his life really is in danger, his behavior still makes no sense. Why then does he keep putting himself in front of every camera? Why write a tell-all? Why sign deals with streaming giants? Why not retreat quietly and securely if protection is truly the priority? If he's so concerned for his life, why not hire the right level of security and sort things out privately with his father? Charles reportedly offered him a safe space at Buckingham Palace. That would solve the security issue in a heartbeat, but Harry chose the broadcast route instead. This entire situation is wrong on so many levels. The royal family should not be dragged into politics. And yet, Harry explicitly named checks public officials. He calls on the Prime Minister, the Home Secretary, and others to review RAVC, the committee in charge of royal security. He wants answers, but the implication here is that the king should have a say in those decisions, which is a dangerous precedent. Either RAV is an independent expert body or it's not. If it isn't, then what is the point of the royal household trying to exert pressure? He's playing revolutionary without the risk, and that's where the absurdity truly kicks in. This isn't some fringe activist. This is one of the richest, most privileged men in the world. Plenty of ultra-wealthy figures like Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg pay for their own protection without demanding government intervention. Even worse, Harry's being disingenuous. His father did offer him a place to stay. The problem is he doesn't want peace. He wants a public win. But these aren't the right battles to fight. They come off petty, sad, and deeply misplaced. This whole saga feels like the performance of a man who isn't just estranged from his family, but from himself. It reads like a desperate cry from someone deeply unhappy in both marriage and life. For those with religious faith or just a basic belief in reconciliation, the hope would be that Harry finds peace with his father before it's too late. But he seems focused on something else entirely. At the root of it all is entitlement. Harry behaves as if he's owed something from taxpayers, from the royal family, from the country. And when things don't go his way, he plays the victim. In every narrative, someone else is to blame. The media, the firm, the government, even his father. He refuses to take personal responsibility, and until he does, he's destined to remain unhappy. There was always going to be a cost for stepping away from the family and blowing the whistle on private matters. And Harry paid that price. What people forget or conveniently ignore is how deep the betrayal went. He didn't just leave, he accused his family of racism. He pointed fingers at Charles and Catherine. He spilled details so personal they felt malicious, including strange, unsettling references to his brother's private anatomy, blame game, and the Meghan factor. There's a moment where criticism turns into concern. And with Prince Harry, some say we passed that point a while ago. At least one person watching all of this unfold thinks he's genuinely lost the plot. To understand how deep this goes, they point straight to the judge's ruling in Harry's most recent case. Despite the prince insisting that some shadowy conspiracy was denying him the security he deserved, the court didn't exactly see it that way. The judge acknowledged his military service had placed him at risk. She noted that Harry clearly felt he'd been treated unfairly, but after reviewing a thick stack of documents, she concluded that feelings don't equal legal justification. In plain terms, the decisions made around his security were reasonable, predictable even, given he stepped back from royal duties and moved overseas. The entire panel agreed that there would be no appeal. For anyone still entertaining the idea that the palace was plotting against him, this ruling basically shuts that down. Harry left the family business. That came with consequences. The court confirmed he was still being protected when needed. But he wouldn't be given the full security detail of a working royal, and he's not the only one. Many senior royals who actually still work don't receive 24 protection either. One commentator couldn't help but inject a little humor into the otherwise stiff legal drama. He joked that David Starkey must have picked up a side gig as a judge, considering how theatrical it all sounded. But then he got serious. His father, he said, used to tell him that a dangerous woman can drag a man further than gunpowder could ever blow him. It was his way of saying Harry may have fallen too deep into a toxic spiral, one that involved more than just bad headlines and royal rifts. He suspected Harry had gotten himself stuck in a particularly dark rabbit hole, and instead of climbing out, he kept digging. From his perspective, Harry's obsession with his brother's anatomy, brought up repeatedly in interviews and books, only proved how far gone things had become. It was all deeply unsettling, and sadly he no longer expected a reconciliation with the king to happen in this lifetime. It wasn't all Harry's doing, though, at least not in the eyes of some of his critics. They acknowledged that King Charles hadn't exactly been a flawless father. His well-known affair didn't do wonders for the family dynamic, but Meghan, that's where the blame shifted hard. Meghan Markle had done more to block reconciliation than anyone else. In their view, she was the driving force behind Harry's relentless campaign of grievance. She created a wall between him and his family that no amount of therapy or Netflix money could knock down. Every time Harry had a chance to mend fences, that wall only seemed to get taller. And every time that wall cracked, it was another explosive interview, another memoir chapter, or another legal battle. The longer this all drags on, the harder it becomes to imagine a quiet reunion behind closed doors. What started as a personal decision to step back has spiraled into a public standoff with no clear ending. With court rulings, media moments, and family wounds piling up, the question is about whether Harry even wants a path back or if the bridge has already burned for good. Drop your thoughts in the comments below.